How's it going, everybody? Mobius Y here with another video for Stellaris Console Edition. Today we have another Empire build guide. Disclaimer, this one will require the Megacorp DLC because this is in fact a mega corporation empire. I made a goofy little setup that I called the Trader Confederation. The name of the species is Trader, plural is traders, adjective tradespeople, and the biography. Consume our products, then get excited for our next product. So this is a megacorp that I built with a large focus on generating trade value and actually using that to supplant your generation of energy credits and not using technicians to do so. I figured it would be a kind of fun little thing to do. This build is very not meta, so if you're looking for something that will truly min-max and make you an absolutely super strong powerhouse of an empire by the time you get to the mid-game or even into the late game, this is probably not the empire build you're looking for. Now, before we dive into this, I will remind you that if you'd like to see more Stellaris Console Edition, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. The goal for 2021 is to try and have this channel hit 10,000 subscribers. We're pretty close to 6K, so join me on the road to 10K. I think we can do it, and I need your help to do so. Best things you can do are hit that red subscribe button and share my content with anybody who you think might enjoy watching it. If you have any friends who also play Stellaris Console Edition, or you know some colleagues who you could get interested in the game, send them my way. I'll do my best to inform and entertain them as much as possible. So as I said, this particular Empire build requires Megacorp. I went with the reptilian kind of dragon-looking portrait because I've literally never used it. We went through the species name, the name list. I just did $ with the humans UNE name list. I wasn't going for anything too fancy. And for the ruler setup, for the male, they are the head honcho. The female is the lady leader. And the first leader or ruler of the Trader Confederation, I guess the first executive CEO of the Trader Confederation, is Tiamat Trader. And she leads this particular empire for the first 20 years. So let's take a look at the species traits first. Now, as I said, the main things I was going for was improving the trade value generation of this particular empire. So the species themselves has the thrifty trait to generate plus 25% trade value from jobs that these pops are working, and you get those from your executives, your managers, your clerks, all that good stuff, and they're generating an extra 25% trade value. Now, to kind of coincide with that, I figured the two things that I was going to have to do was make it seem like these are, you know, a very corporate kind of people's, very business oriented, where it's all about accruing wealth, but they're also very what's the opposite of frugal? I can't think of the word, but they're very wasteful of the stuff they have. So I took the wasteful trait to increase their consumer goods upkeep by plus 10%, and I also wanted to be able to improve the rate at which we unlock traditions with this particular empire build. So I took the traditional trait to improve unity production from jobs by an additional 10%. So that's not it for there. We'll take a look at the empire setup in just a moment. The name of the homeworld is Trade Capital. Star name Stonks. I went with a desert world because these are dragons. I figured screw it. Went with a reptilian city appearance. Also went with an arthropoid ship appearance because it's kind of my favorite one, just for funsies. The advisor voice, I do believe I took the Slick Corporation advisor voice for this particular playthrough. And for the particular, what's it called, the symbol and whatnot, I just took the very standard Megacorp symbol, threw it against a purple backdrop with a orange stripe. The name of the empire, as I said, is the Trader Confederation, and the adjective for any people living in the Trader Confederation is Traderin. So let's take a look at the actual empire setup. Now, I wasn't just going for improving trade value from the pops and on all that stuff. I wanted to try and go really, really heavy into generating trade value. And the two ways to do that was improve trade value generation, but I also wanted to be able to create a lot of trading hub Starbases, is why I went that route as well. So for the ethics, I went with Fanatic Xenophile to improve trade value by a further 20% throughout the Empire, and this also reduces the influence cost of diplomatic interactions by 50%. And then I also took a little bit of spiritualism to give us another plus 10% monthly unity bonus, and it also reduces the cost of our edicts by 5%, as there can be some pretty useful edicts to activate for an empire of this particular build type, namely things like production targets to improve the minerals being generated from your jobs. This is, of course, a mega corporation, so the authority is a corporate authority, which increases our admin cap by 20, and we have an election every 20 years to select a new ruler or CEO. But you also have to be aware that you do take that extra empire sprawl penalty if you go over the admin cap as a mega corporation. Now for the civics, I took free traders. This is a no-brainer. This increases trade value by plus 10% and your value of branch offices by an additional plus 10%. So if you're able to secure some of those commercial packs with your neighbors, you can build those branch offices. They'll be a little bit more valuable to you just by default because of the civic. And of course the extra plus 10% trade value. Between that, the fanatic xenophilia, giving us another plus 20% trade value. That's plus 30%, and we're getting an additional plus 25% on our jobs because of the, I believe it's thrifty trait. Yes, the thrifty trait, which gives us another 25%, for a total of 55% trade value being produced from our Pops working jobs that generate some trade value for us. And I took Trading Post, which is normally not a civic I would ever recommend taking. It increases your Starbase capacity by plus 4. But the reason for this is, as I said, I wanted to build, or I should say upgrade, as many Starbases as possible to have trade hubs and off-world trading company buildings on them, which would then have that Starbase producing some additional trade value for the Empire. And I did that quite a bit in this particular playthrough. You'll see it once we take a look at the game itself. So that's the overall summary of this Empire build. As I said, in previous Empire builds, the appearance options are totally up to you. You can pick whatever you want, as well as your starting homeworld, but the important parts are the traits, the ethics, the civics, and of course the government type, the authority. So traits are thrifty, traditional, and wasteful. It is a corporate authority. The ethics are fanatic xenophilia and spiritualism, and the civics are free traders and trading posts. Everything else you can customize to have this empire looking however you please. So we're going to take a look at the save states that I have for this particular empire. As normal, we're going to take a look at the very beginning of the game, and then we're going to jump 20 years ahead and take a look at 20 years in the game, and then we'll jump ahead another 30 years to take a look at how I'm doing 50 years into the game. And from that point on, if you want to try this out, it is totally up to you what the future of the Trader Confederation holds. So here we are at the start of the game in our home system of stocks. You can see our home planet of trade capital right here, and because we are a mega corporation, we have one less generator district on this world and a commercial zones building constructed. So that will be generating us quite a few clerk jobs. Now, what we ultimately want to do is get rid of this generator district to remove the technician jobs and replace them with more clerks, either by adding city districts or maybe doing another commercial zones building. So as I said, the aim with this was to completely float our economy with trade value, generating all of our energy credits, not using technicians. There was no real reason behind that. You don't have to do that with this Empire build. I largely did it in this playthrough strictly for fun. So looking around here, I spawned in the southern portions of the galaxy. I spawned in the northwestern portions of the galaxy. I did it a 2-arm spiral galaxy, and I did it a large 600 stars with 10 AI empires, because I want to try to make as many friends as possible to create commercial packs and establish those branch offices on their worlds and whatnot. So that would further increase our generation of energy credits each month. Now, before we jump into our technologies, we're going to take a look at the traditions tree as the game goes on. I started with the diplomacy tree for semi-obvious reasons. The first one I wanted was the open markets, which increases trade value in the empire by an additional 10%. And then I wanted the secure shipping, because that increases base trade protection on your trade routes by an additional 5. And the reason for that is because, as I said, I wanted to build a lot of star bases that were upgraded to have trade hub modules and the off-world trading company building to have those star bases producing a lot of trade value out there in space. And I did quite a bit of that. And the second tradition I went after was supremacy, because adopting it increases starbase capacity by an additional +2. And of course, we can also take the great game over here in the lower right, which reduces the cost of upgrading our starbases by 33%, making them significantly cheaper on those precious alloys. So we'll take a little bit of a better look at that later on. For technologies, wow, physics got a good start here. We've got quantum theory. The society technologies, this one's pretty tough. We've got plus 10% pop growth speed. We've got planetary unification, which gives us the additional campaigns and additional monthly unity. And of course, biodiversity studies is another really good one. I'll just pick biodiversity studies in this video. And then here in engineering, we have 2 pretty dang good starts with powered exoskeletons and nanomechanics. So I'm going to start with nanomechanics, taking all 3 options to improve the amount of science that we are generating. So that pretty much sums up the start of this particular Empire build. As I said, eventually going to want to demolish the generator district just for the sake of role-playing, to take that out, and then construct another city district to create more clerk jobs to improve the generation of trade value, and by extension, the generation of our energy credits. And because I was focusing, or I should say relying on energy credits, or trade value to produce our energy credits, I left the trade policy on wealth creation for this entire playthrough while setting up for this particular video. Of course, food policy changed to nutritional plenitude, get that extra 10%, I believe it is, sorry, 10%, 25% pop growth speed. Increased 25% pop food upkeep. Man, reading is hard tonight for some reason. And plus 10% pop growth speed is actually quite important, since we're foregoing the expansion tradition tree and not getting that plus 10% pop growth speed from those particular traditions. Nutritional plenitude food policy is definitely a must for this particular playthrough, or at least it was. Anyway, so that'll be it for looking at the start of this particular game. We're going to jump ahead 20 years to take a look at some earlier portions of the game as the Empire was expanding a little bit, and see how we're doing from there. Alright, here we are 20 years into the game. We have our first election underway, which unfortunately I'll have to abstain from, but that's okay. We'll leave that alone for now. That's unimportant. So if we take a look, I've grabbed some pretty crucial systems here. I grabbed the choke point here in Rodan to allow us to continue expanding outwards in this downwards direction towards Doria here, which is another choke point that I wanted control of, which would allow me to control the system of Sinor and get that source of volatile motes in the future once we get the relevant techs. And of course, over here on the west side of our Empire's territory, I've got this particular system of Regine, which can allow us to continue expanding up in this area and take these choke points here in Talasis, or even here in Jinkath, expand our territory to those areas, and grab this little portion of the galaxy where the hyperlanes suspiciously look a lot like a very basic wireframe house, if you look really hard at it. So by grabbing all that territory, that should be more than enough to supplant our resource generation with that space, as well as give us access to some super duper handy colonies, which, as you can see, I was able to colonize several worlds. We've got place of commerce, subscribe, and hub of merchandise already colonized and under development. Unfortunately, this does really tank our growth speed on the homeworld, as there is a lot of immigration push off of this world onto the new colonies. So for the time being, the growth speed on this is pretty poor. For buildings, I constructed an extra alloy foundry to improve alloys production because, as I said, I wanted to upgrade a lot of star bases and turn them into trade hubs, which was going to require alloys. So I constructed another building for alloys, and I constructed another building for civilian industries to produce quite a bit more consumer goods, as I was fully expecting to also fill in maybe some researcher jobs, but also things from things like corporate culture sites, where I believe those are managers or executives, whichever jobs those are that produce the Unity from corporate culture sites. As I did want to kind of push towards getting those traditions done, especially those last few sets of traditions later on in the game. Speaking of traditions, let's take a look at what we have completed so far. So I finished the diplomacy tree, as I said I was going to do. Open markets was my very first pick, then secure shipping, and I continued by going through insider trading and then picking the two on the right regarding Federation traditions. And then the first ascension perk I grabbed was Interstellar Dominion to decrease the influence cost of Starbases, as I wanted to be able to expand faster than my neighbors and just grab the key territory that I really wanted under my control. And now I am working on the Supremacy Tradition tree, starting with Overwhelming Force, which increases ship fire rate and orbital bombardment damage, but more importantly so that for the next tradition in 49 months I can take the Great Game, which reduces the cost of upgrading Starbases by 33%. And you can see here on the right side in the outliner, I have quite a few star bases. We have the Rodan station, which was made into a semi-weak bastion right now, until we can upgrade it some more. The Regine system has another bastion, and of course the Doria station, which is yet another choke point, is another bastion. But apart from that, these other 4-star bases here in Ipergara, in Joldarun, in Banagho, and Bade, these are all trade hubs. I upgraded all of them to have, for now, just the 2 trade hubs and an off-world trading company building. So as time goes on and I get more technologies, I can upgrade these to have even more trade hubs on them, which with the off-world trading company building will have these star bases producing even more trade value, with more trade value being generated, that is converted into more energy credits. If you look at our production of energy credits, just about all of it is coming from trade right now. We have 20 base energy credits produced each month, as does any empire, and we have 43.2 being generated from stations, but you'll notice that there are none being produced from jobs. I have no technicians in this entire empire right now. All of our trade value, or I should say the majority of our trade value, or energy credits, excuse me, is coming from trade. I have quite a lot of clerk jobs on the homeworld, some of which I've locked out in order to improve the production of minerals and food on the world. And I started off by filling out some more clerk jobs on the new colonies by building a few city districts on each of those, in order to bring in, in order to have them generating more trade value and bringing in even more energy credits. So a bit of a goofy way to play this particular empire, but I was having fun doing it. Technologies, getting self-evolved logic, also reaching out for adaptive bureaucracy to reduce the cost of recruiting new leaders, and getting that sweet rare crystal mining so that we can construct a crystal mine, as I do believe one of the colonies had a planetary feature allowing us to construct one right there, the crystalline caverns here on the subscribe colony. So that's how things are going so far, just 20 years into the game. The economy is still working on the foundations of it, still building it up, but we already have 3 colonies that we can start developing and growing pops on. So that so far is looking good, laying the base of our economy. Seems to be going fairly well. And let's jump ahead in another 30 years and take a look at how we're doing 50 years in the game. Okay, we're now 50 years into the game, and as we zoom out, you'll see that I've expanded just a little bit more to, in particular, to grab this system over here, where I colonized a new world that I called What Am I Doing? Because it's only a size 12 world, but I said, screw it, I'm going to grab it anyways, because it's another colony, and I didn't really feel like turning that down. Unfortunately, things are not going so great, as another empire did declare war on us and came at us with a decent early game fleet, composing of 11 cruisers, 8 destroyers, and 6 corvettes, and they quite easily knocked out our unupgraded starbase that was there. I started constructing it into a bastion for defenses, but it simply was not up to snuff to hold off that kind of an invasion force. Thankfully, the very next area, it has another starbase that is upgraded, but again, it's another trade hub, upgraded all the way up to a star hold this time. So you can see that we're producing a little bit more trade value off of that particular trade hub starbase. And even here in Folangar, where we have another starbase, Aruz has a starbase, like the video has a starbase somewhere in there, I do believe. And Joldaroons has that older starbase upgraded with even more trade hub modules. So how did I manage to arrange this? Well, if we take a look at the traditions, I finished the Supremacy Tree, and for the second Ascension perk, I took Grasp the Void, which is another pick that I really don't recommend, and why I say this is a very off-meta kind of build, or I should say it's been more of an off-meta playthrough. This increases your starbase capacity by +5. If you look in the top right, my starbase capacity is currently 18, and it is maxed out. After I took the Supremacy Tradition trees, I went over to Prosperity, and I mostly was going for the Interstellar Franchising Tradition. In order to grab that, you have to get Administrative Operations first to reduce the upkeep of buildings and districts by 10%, and then I was able to take Interstellar Franchising, which has your city districts produce an additional clerk job for each one. So that can really help out with boosting our production of trade value and, by extension, energy credits on our colonies. And indeed it did. If you look over here, we're producing 122 energy credits per month. We're getting 270 produced each month just from trade. We have another 33 coming in from some branch offices. We'll take a look at the diplomacy situation in a little bit, but we also have 85 trade energy credits also being generated from stations, so mining stations that we have throughout our particularly small territory is producing an additional 85 energy credits for us, which is super duper helpful. So here on Trade Capital, I started constructing another civilian industries and a research lab to improve unlocking more technologies. And as you can see here, the number of clerks on the planet did go up quite a bit just from taking that tradition that has 2 clerk jobs per city district. Still building up mining and agriculture districts to improve the generation of minerals and food per month. Particularly minerals seems a little low, but in order to improve energy credits, I do need more city districts. So here on Place of Commerce, I was able to get a temple constructed, which gave us some priest jobs to produce unity for us, and even some additional amenities on this world. So due to the fact that we are a spiritual mega corporation, we have access to the temple building, which actually replaces the corporate culture site in order to create unity producing jobs. And that is why I also constructed 2 additional civilian industries on this colony as well, to offset the extra consumer goods required for the priest jobs producing unity. So I was going to need some more civilian industries in order to produce more consumer goods. Here on the colony of Subscribe, same thing. I've got another temple building to improve our unity production, and I've got a research lab to improve our science production. Both of these requiring a decent amount of consumer goods for the jobs that they are producing, but both types of jobs really improving the rate that we progress, both with the traditions and our technologies. And on this world hub of merchandise, as you can see, another temple and 2 more research labs to improve accruing more traditions, unlocking more traditions quickly, as well as building up more science. So if you recall, in the previous section, after 20 years, I only had 1 tradition fully unlocked, and in the 30 years since then, we were able to unlock most of our 2nd tradition and all of our 3rd tradition, simply because we have temples on our first 3 colonies already to produce a decent amount of unity. So let's take a look at our star bases again. We have a few bastions still: Regine, Talasis, Rodan, and the starbase that we no longer have in Pew Pew Lasers. But as you can see, Ipergara, trade hub; Joldaroon, trade hub; Folangar, trade hub; Aruz, trade hub; Pagitoran, trade hub; Sholmak, trade hub; Poa, trade hub; Banagos, trade hub; Bade, trade hub; Sknor, trade hub; Nietz, trade hub; Holdabanda, trade hub. I have a lot of upgraded star bases that are being turned into trade hubs, and the sole reason for that is because they're able to produce some passive trade value simply by putting those trade hub modules on them, and also constructing an off-world trading company on each of these star bases. So it's generating a little bit extra trade value throughout our entire empire by doing so, and that was the whole point behind this particular empire build, just trying to bring in a lot of trade value and relying on trade value as the sole generator of our energy credits. If we take a peek at our technologies, I'm working on cold fusion power, just about to get it, as a matter of fact. Artificial mineral codes will be kind of nice for the increased production of amenities, and of course mineral cutting beams. Improving the output of our mining stations is kind of nice, so that when we are extracting these sweet volatile motes, we're closer to producing just even more than just the base 2 that was on this planet. In fact, we're already producing 2.8 off of that planet. So a decent source of volatile motes there. And looking forward to getting some rare crystals off of that world that had the crystal caverns here on Subscribe. Right now, not quite able to do so as I need another building slot available, but we're definitely working towards that. As far as everything else goes, it's not so well. I had a military fleet kind of patrolling the area up here in the house zone, as I kind of dubbed it in my head, because there were some levels of piracy that I wanted to suppress, so I had the small fleet of corvettes kind of patrolling that area. Right now they're flying down to Pew Pew lasers to try and support the starbase, but this little fleet here was able to take it out quite quickly. Now, in terms of the diplomatic state of things, we only have a couple branch offices, I do believe. Where the heck is that portion? There it is. So we've got one here on Mekon. This is the homeworld of the Mekonas bonded merchants, excuse me. I can't quite read that from here. So I was able to get a branch office on these guys' homeworld, as I'm on decent terms with them. The Hadedeshi Mercantile Union, unfortunately, they're also a mega corporation, so I was not able to get a branch office on their world. And over here on Twax Prime, this is the allied Twaxidar worlds, where I've been pretty good friends with them. In fact, I do believe I have a defensive pact with them right now. And we were able to get a branch office on their world going as well. And in fact, it's our most profitable branch office so far. Unfortunately, I was not so lucky with the remaining empires, as the Raxar entity is a hive mind Gestalt consciousness, the Model 16 supervisors is a hive mind machine empire, and the Kalaktoric Trade Commission, I do believe, is another mega corporation. So kind of getting the short end of the stick on that RNG there. And I was also unable to secure commercial pacts with everybody in order to try and improve the trade value coming in just from the commercial packs. So not going too great, but it's been kind of interesting so far. As I said, dumping a lot of alloys, not so much towards producing military fleets, but just to upgrading those star bases and having them producing a lot more trade value, as this is a very trade-oriented kind of empire build, and I figured I was going to try something really goofy and float almost our entire economy, or at the very least our energy credits economy, off of strictly being generated from our trade value. So that's going to be it for the look at how I was doing in this particular game. Hopefully that gives you an idea of something that you can try with this particular empire build, and yeah, we'll go to closing comments now. Okay, so that was a look at the Trader Confederation Empire build that I came up with. As I said, focusing very heavily on producing trade value, and in the particular playthrough where I showed off those save states, I really doubled down on that by having no generator districts on any of my worlds, on any of my colonies, having all of my energy credits produced through the conversion of trade value. So if you want to copy this particular empire setup, please feel free to. Of course, you can play it however you want, and you can choose the appearance options completely differently, set those up however you want. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below what you think of this particular empire build guide, and if you'd like to see some more of these, of course, if you want to see some more Stellaris Console Edition content, please subscribe to the channel, and the goal for 2021 is to try to have this channel hit 10,000 subscribers. So the best things you can do are subscribe yourself and share my content with anybody who you think might enjoy it. Hopefully we'll see you at the end of December when we hit 10K. Don't forget to check out the links in the description below. You'll find one for the official Stellaris Discord where you can become part of the greater Stellaris community. There's a big section for us Console Edition players to talk about the game with each other, discuss strategies, ask questions, and even set up multiplayer games, as there are people from both consoles that play on or that play in that Console Edition section of the official Stellaris Discord. So if you want to be part of it, the link for that is provided below. There's also links to my Twitch channel, which you can see me playing Stellaris Console Edition at least once per week. These days I'm streaming Tuesdays and Fridays at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, but I'm also streaming 4 days a week total: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you want to come and see me play Stellaris live, pop by on Tuesdays and Fridays and check out what I have going on Mondays and Thursdays, as I'll be playing a slew of other games for the rest of the year. There's also a link to my Twitter feed. Give me a follow there. I post important announcements all the time, and it's a great way to keep in touch with me. Last but not least, there is a link to my own personal Discord channel, which you can be a part of. It's not mandatory to join it, but if you want to be part of these small community events that we have there occasionally, such as viewer polls, which is voting on which games in my library I also play on stream, that is the place to be. Thank you very much for watching. This is Mobius Y signing off for now, and I hope to see you again in the near future with another video or live on one of my Stellaris Console Edition streams. Until then, have a great night.